to my channel. My name is Erica, and in today's video, I'm going to be ranking for you guys the palettes that I use throughout the month of February. I will also be popping up pictures of the looks that I created with these palettes. Now there are 16 spots in this go around. I think last month there was only 11, or for the month of January, there was only 11. So I used more eyeshadow palettes in the month of February. That's great. Now there are a few palettes I just lumped together and I did not rank them because I only used a couple shades out of each palette. And as I explain what I did with them, I think it'll make more sense. One of the palettes though, I am going to be pulling into the ranking, which I promise this is all going to make sense. I had a ton of fun putting the looks together that I created throughout the month of February. Really enjoyed all the palettes that I played with. One, maybe not so much, kinda. But they're not ranked in the order that I ranked them in because I dislike necessarily any of these palettes. Well, one I'm gonna get rid of, so that one I don't really love. It's just in comparison to all of the palettes I used throughout the month of February, this is how I've chosen to rank them. Okay, so enough gibby gabbing, let's get into the actual video here. So I am gonna start off with a group of palettes that I used for a collab video. I did a collab with Leanna Dalton, Andy from Andy Does Stuff, and Ash from Makeup and Chaos. And Ash came up with the best idea. They said, let's choose 5 favorite brands in terms of eyeshadow palettes. Then choose your favorite palette from each of those 5 brands. And then choose a shade out of the palette that's your favorite and create a look with those shades. And I know I kind of fudged a little bit in that video because I used a couple shades out of a couple of the palettes. I didn't just stick with just 5 shades. So I kind of cheated a little bit, but that was so much fun. So fun to be creative in that way. And I would never have thought to do that. So Ash really, they have some really awesome video ideas. So the 5 brands that I chose as my favorites in terms of eyeshadow palettes is Saints, Angels, Sinners, Ladybug Glow, Nomad, Glam Light, and Beauty Bay. Duh, I have a list of my stuff right in front of me here. So the palettes I chose to put my look together with, and of course, like I mentioned, I'll be popping pictures up. I used Pond Lily from Ladybug Glow. This is one of my favorite, well, it is, well, I don't know if it's my favorite palette from this brand, but it's one of my favorite palettes from this brand. It was really hard for me to choose just one palette from this brand to pull in for that look. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I used these 2 shimmer shades in that look across my lids. And just such a lovely formulation. This whole palette. I am going to be doing 2 looks with all of my Ladybug Glow palettes after I finish up the Nomad 2 looks videos. I think I have 2 more Nomad palettes to get through. And, you know, this is such a near and dear brand to my heart. I just love the palettes that Ladybug Glow creates. I love their matte formula, their shimmer formula, everything. So although it wasn't easy for me to pull a palette into this collab video idea, this one just, I don't know, I wanted to pull that in. Then I also grabbed the Royal Europe palette from Nomad for that look. And I think I just used the shade right here, right? Called Palace of Versailles, I think so. And this has become my favorite Nomad Cosmetics palette. It used to be the Berlin Underground, which I still love it, but this is just so absolutely amazing in terms of its quality, the color story, the row of shimmers down here. The mattes are just lovely. They blend so well and they're super pigmented. But yeah, the jewel tones in here and just all the different options you have and how wonderful this palette is now it's become my favorite. Then I grabbed the Age of Opulence palette from Beauty Bay. This is my favorite Beauty Bay palette, although again, that's not easy for me to say because I love all my Beauty Bay palettes except for one. What did I use out of this palette for that look? I think I just used this matte, right? This matte called Rich, I think, right? But look at that color story. Isn't that lovely? It's very opulent color story. Purples and blues and beautiful neutral options. I love the mix of tones in here. Love it. And then for my Glam Light palette, I grabbed the Scooby-Doo Creeps and Crawls palette. Now this really is my favorite Glam Light palette. I love the quality, the formula, the color story is so fun. Beautiful jewel tones, teals, blue, purple, magenta, kind of lavenderish, purpley pink. you know, just really fun, really a fun palette. And I think, what did I use out of this palette? I think I used one of the shimmers and then these two mattes, I think. So like I said, I kind of cheated. You're supposed to just pull one shade out of the palette. I didn't do that. And then my favorite Saints Angel Sinners palette is the Steph's Pure palette that Saints Angel Sinners did in collaboration with my sister, Steph. And I did repress the Sinner shade here, right here. This broke into a bunch of little pieces, but it's still a little tender, so I'm just being careful with it. And what did I think I just used the black matte out of this palette, which that wasn't easy because I could have chosen all the shades out of this palette to pull into that collab video. But this is so fun, such a fun palette, and you'll be seeing this again because I did create a look with this palette throughout the month of February too. So now let's get into the actual ranking of the palettes that I use throughout the month of February, starting with the lowest ranked spot, which is number 16, and that belongs to the Beauty Bay Dark Fantasy palette. Now, I had used this in the past. I filmed a second chance Get Ready With Me using makeup products I wanted to give a second chance to, and this was the palette I thought would be good for that because I wasn't in love with the shimmer formula. I'd only tried like a couple of the shimmers. This one in particular was awful on my lids. Just blows up, it just looks weird. It looks good when you first put it on, but by the end of the day, it just looks awful. And then I'd also use these two shimmers. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna pull this palette into that video and see what I think of it. Now I did like this shade here. It's more of a satin shimmer. That was really nice, but this shade here is the shimmer that I used in that video. I used a couple of the mattes. I think, what did I use? These two, this matte, maybe that, or this, that, and that. I think it's, I don't remember. Isn't that weird how like you put a look together and you don't even remember what shades you use? But I do know that I used these two shimmers, and this just ended up looking like trash by the end of the day. And I know that I could have used maybe a glitter primer. I have tried that in the past, and glitter primers just do not work on my lids. I don't know why. They just crease the crap out of my shimmers. And I'm just not someone that's going to use 2 or 3 different kinds of eyeshadow primers. I'm just not going to do that. And I don't know, I just was so disappointed in the shimmers in here because I love this brand. The mattes are gorgeous. They're really nicely pigmented and they blend like a dream. But the shimmer formula is just, I don't know. Very disappointing because love the brand, but I am gonna get rid of this. I'm not gonna keep it in my collection. I've tried to gift it to a couple people and they're like, I don't like the palette either. So no thanks. So I'm gonna find someone to give this to. Not that I want someone to have a palette that I don't love or that doesn't work well, but maybe someone else could get this to work well. I don't know. Number 15 belongs to the Nomad Cosmetics Tokyo Harajuku palette. Now again, this was not easy for me to rank this so low, but out of all the palettes I used in February, this just ranked lower. I do think this is a beautiful color story. It's just that pastels are just not my shadow of choice typically. Like, this is a palette that I really don't reach for that often. And the reason why is because I just feel like I'm limited in what I can create with this palette because it's so pastel. I do love the shimmers down here. I love them. You know, this was my first foray into like duochrome and multichrome shimmer shades. And so these shades will always be very special to me. But I will say that as I was putting my looks together, these two mattes in particular, I did a 2 looks video with this palette. These two mattes in particular were very powdery, very chalky looking, and I just didn't like how they looked really. I mean, I did end up liking the looks, both looks that I created. They were nice, but this is just not a palette that I'm gonna pull out and use on its own. Jan Van let me know that she uses this as a companion palette, and that is perfect. Like this, I want to do a video where I'm using this as a companion palette. Not sure what to use it with at this point. I haven't really thought that through yet. But you know, on its own, it just doesn't give me all the things I want out of a palette. There's no depth really other than this shade here. It's just not a real fun palette for me. I know that may sound strange because I mean, I love this brand, love it. It's just, I'm gonna use this as a companion palette and then I'll reassess it. Number 14 belongs to the Juvia's Place Festival palette. Now this wasn't easy for me either because I really enjoy this brand and I love this palette, I do. But it's very random. That's what I pulled this palette into, was a random color story collab with Nikki. And I think part of the reason, well, I know part of the reason why this does not get a lot of love in my collection, even though I think it's gorgeous and I love the shades and I love the quality, it's just the color story kind of throws me for a loop. Now, I loved the look that I put together. It came together very nicely. However, this shade right here, this black kind of satiny shade, the age of this palette is definitely catching up with it. This palette is at least 2 years old, if not older than that. And this was just super folly outy. I was picking little specks of this shade off my face all day long. And that's not really the shade's fault. It's just an older palette, you know? And it does make me kind of sad that it's not getting the love that it really deserves, because it's beautiful. But this configuration and this color story just makes me go, huh? Like, I don't always know what to do with it. So that's really the only reason why it's ranked lower. Now for number 13, I used a palette and then a single from Divina. I did this as a collab on Instagram with Charlie, and I'll link her. Anyone I'm mentioning that has a channel, I'll link their channels in my description box, of course. But she had some Divina singles, or she has some Divina singles, and so do I. And so she reached out and said, let's do a Divina collab on Instagram. And I'm like, okay, fantastic. Now I put the look together very quickly. I'd taken my husband in for surgery, and then, you know, I was running low on time to get the look put together to get it up on Instagram for Charlie and my collab. So I basically just came home as he was in surgery and just threw my look on. So it was a very quick look. That's part of the reason why it's ranked lower. And I just felt like, in terms of some of the other things I used in February, the look just, it was just not as dynamic maybe as some of the other looks that I created. So the mattes that I pulled in are out of the Certified the Tropical Wonders palette. And I used, I think, just these two mattes, Hibiscus and Firefish, and then a little bit of Starling as well. And love this palette. I use this quite often. I actually have shades out of this palette on my eyelids today. Fun. But the shimmer that I used from Divina is this one right here, called, and this is going to fall on the ground and I don't want it to do that. It's called Sprinkle Whips, and it's beautiful. It's kind of like a pink and purple, like lavender shifting shimmer shade. And I think it's lovely. Very nice formulation. It's a beautiful color. It's just that I got other singles from Divina that have really wowed me. I mean, it's beautiful, but it didn't make me go like some of the other Divina singles that I have in my collection. But I really wanted to give this a try, because of course I purchased it and wanted to use it, and I want to continue to use it. It's lovely. It's just, I feel like I have to justify all these decisions of how I rank things, but it just, with the other things I used in February, it's just lower in the ranking. Number 12 is the LA Girl Pro Mastery palette. Now I pulled this in for a Throwback Thursday video. Is that the first Throwback Thursday video I did? I think was using this palette. I think this is such a lovely, easy color story. You know, all the shades in here, I believe, go together so well. And this formula is honestly one of the best formulas from the drugstore that I've ever found. I did pick this up from Target, and I think they still carry LA Girl products, right? Pretty sure they do. They better. If they don't, that's ridiculous. And I just hadn't used this palette in a long time, and I felt like it was perfect for a Throwback Thursday because I've had it for quite some time, and just really love the look that I put together. I love it. I think this is a very romantic color story. And yeah, it was just really fun to start off Throwback Thursday with a really like staple palette in my collection. Number 11 is the Nomad Cosmetics Cartagena Mágica palette. Love the outer packaging of this palette. And I've thought about decluttering this palette more than once, because this color story is just kind of meh. But then I used the palette for the 2 looks video that I did with it and really liked it. I really like this. It's a very easy palette to put looks together with, I would say. And the quality and formula is just top notch. I mean, it's a really lovely formulated palette from Nomad. Now, my favorite shades in here, I've mentioned this multiple times, are these 2 right here. And for a while, I was just keeping the palette for those 2 shades because I love them so much. But now, after creating the 2 looks video with this, I really do like the other shades in here. This is just not a color story that I'm gonna grab a whole lot. And this might be another great companion palette. But I just felt like this deserved this spot in the ranking because of how lovely the shades perform. And I am getting more on board with this color story. You know, I like it better than I have in the past. So yeah, I'm gonna hold on to it. I'm gonna keep it in my collection. Number 10 is the Natasha Denona Mini Xenon palette. Now my dear friend Janny Boo, she gifted this to me, and Shawnee had challenged me to do an all matte look, and then Jan's grandson, Cute Baby, challenged me to do a black, gray, and orange look. So that's why I pulled this palette into that video. And it was really tough to do an all matte look with this palette because we have this beautiful, beautiful silver shimmer right here. You know, so I'm thinking, and I'm gonna be using this again, of course, and using that silver shimmer. I'm like panting over it. It's so gorgeous. But I have a lot of fun putting an all matte look together with this palette. The formulation of this palette is truly stunning, truly incredible. And everything blended so well. It was really easy. I ended up really liking the all matte look with this. And then I threw an orange lipstick on my lips. The only reason why this is ranked 10th is because it's a smaller palette. I've only used it the one time. And the color story is, you know, it's very monochromatic. And I just have some other palettes that I used in February that were maybe color story wise were a little bit more exciting. Number 9 is the I Heart Revolution Tasty Avocado palette. And this I also pulled in for a Throwback Thursday, right? Why can I not remember that? I think so. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I did. And I have had this palette forever. This was one of the first palettes I got when I got really into makeup. And this was really like the first colorful palette I got because I was terrified of color, but I love greens. I saw Nikki Raven do, I think, a 3 looks video with this. And I thought, you know, I gotta get it. I gotta start playing with color. I really wanted to do that. And I love the packaging, you know, the avocado. And it's like kind of rubbery. I don't know, it's really fun, really soft. And it's just cool. It's very unique and very different. And this color story is one of my favorites in my collection because of the greens, because of the earthiness. There's grunge in here and lots of different things that you can do. You know, you can go all green, you can go all neutral, you can do a mix of things with it. So I just love it. And although the shimmer formula was a little tricky for me to get used to because it's flakier, now that I have a little bit more experience with makeup, the shimmer formula is a lot easier for me to manipulate. But yeah, this will always stay in my collection. I can't imagine ever getting rid of this. And as old as it is, it still works really well. Number 8 is the Glam Light Cake palette. And my dear friend Kimmy Poo, hanging out with Kim, she gifted this to me. Now, she and I were going to do a Valentine's Day themed collab together, and she just was not able to take part in that. So I ended up doing the collab with Shawnee and Jan. Now, they put their looks together while they were answering the Valentine's Day questions. I did not. I just put my makeup on and then answered the questions. But this was such a fun palette to put a look together with. And I thought it was perfect for Valentine's Day with the pinks and reds and purples and stuff, you know. And honestly, I don't remember what mattes I used. I think I used these 2 shimmers. And I want to say I used these 2 mattes, but I just don't remember for sure. Of course I don't. I mean, my brain doesn't hold on to much lately. But I'm thrilled that Kimmy sent this to me. Just, I love it. It's such a beautiful rainbow palette, a wonderful formulation, wonderful quality, and the cutest packaging. Number 7 is the ABH Riviera palette. Now, I picked this up from Marshall's quite a while ago. I did pull this in for a Throwback Thursday video as well. And, you know, I don't really use this palette often. I don't think to reach for it very often. But when I created the look with this palette, I had such a blast. The formulation of the shimmers in here, just stellar. Beautiful formulation. And the mattes are really nice too. They blend very well. They apply easily, you know, all the things that you want in a matte shade, I would assume. That's what you're going to get out of this palette. And it's just a staple. I have thought about decluttering it because this color story used to kind of make me go, but I don't feel that way about it anymore. And after using it in my Throwback Thursday video, there's no way I'm going to declutter this. Yes, it's older. And yeah, maybe I don't reach for it enough, but I still am going to hold on to it because it's lovely. And I loved the look that I put together. I used, let's see, this shimmer, and this shimmer. And then I used these 3 mattes. And I wasn't real sure about the shimmer combination, but it ended up looking really cool. I really liked it. So yeah, I mean, you know, this is just another palette, yet another palette in my collection that needs more love. Number 6 is the Sample Beauty The Rain palette. And I use this palette to create my look in my Billy Idol makeup and artist video. And I just felt like Billy Idol reigned back in the 80s and 90s. So I thought this is perfect to pull this palette in. And although it is neutral, it is absolutely stunning. I loved the look that I put together, and I love the quality of Sample Beauty palettes. This one in particular. The jewel tone from this brand is my favorite, but this is my second favorite. I love the richness of the mattes, you know, the pigmentation, but also the colors. You know, it is obviously more neutral, but I really enjoyed it. It was really fun to put the look together, and the shimmers are so gorgeous in here. Oh, so pretty. And I think I did Billy Idol proud with my look with this palette. Number 5 is the Nomad Whistler Snow Lodge palette. Now, this is where it got a little tricky to start ranking the palettes, because I love all of these palettes in the top 5. I do. And this is such a beautiful, fun, interesting, different color story because of all the different options you have in here. Blues, greens, golds, browns, reds, you know, tons of things you can do with it. And I did do a 2 looks video with this palette. Had a lot of fun with one of my pot gel liners from Beauty Creations, which I need to keep using, and I will. It's just, I don't know, sometimes I don't know if that's a good idea to pull a funky eyeliner color into a look. Might be too much, I don't know. But I'm gonna keep using them. The only shade out of this palette that I wasn't super jazzed about was this one right here. This one is called Powder Specialist. I don't know, it just seemed kind of chalky looking. Wasn't as maybe dynamic or like wah as I thought it was, or maybe it was in the past. I don't know, just didn't really perform all that great. But everything else I used out of this palette worked really well. I created a neutral look using these shades, right? These 3 and maybe that one too. And I do think that was my favorite look that I created. I usually will lean more towards my colorful looks, but I really like the neutral look that I put together with this. Just fun. I love having this. Now, in the 4th ranked spot, I used mattes from the Certify the Tropical Wonders palette again. I used Coast, Fruit Dove, and Swamp. Lovely. This is such a fun palette. So happy that Steph gifted this to me. Really, it's such a staple whenever I'm going to be using my single shimmers, which I did for this look. This was for Leanna Dalton's Beauty and the Soul Challenge, and then also a singles cruise challenge that Charlie does on Instagram. And the shimmers I used were 2. One from Ladybug Glow. This is in the shade Rain. I did write this down in my little book, my little spreadsheet thing, and I did write down the shade name. This is Rain, like R-E-I-G-N. This is such a gorgeous shimmer. It is jaw-droppingly beautiful. So easy to put on the lid, and it lasted so, it didn't crease, didn't do anything, didn't budge all day long. I mean, I had this look on all day from like 5:30 in the morning until probably 8 o'clock at night, and it looked absolutely stunning the entire time. I also threw in this shade from Beauty Moon Cosmetics. The point was to mimic the colors in images of Bora Bora that Charlie chose. And I just felt like these mattes and shimmers were going to do that. Now this shade is called Athena. First I said it was Athens. Then I made a correction in the comment section of the video saying it was Zeus. It's Athena. And this is so lovely. It's that purple and green flip. And putting these 2 together was magic. Absolute magic. Really was. This was really hard for me to rank because love both of these brands and their products are so amazing. Number 3 belongs to the Dirty Martini palette from Glamlight. Now, Charlie and I did a collab talking about Sephora Kids, and we created looks with this palette together, of course. Well, I created my look here. She created her look there. We weren't really together. But this might be my favorite green palette in my collection. Although the pistachio from BH Cosmetics, I think we'll always have that spot. I don't know. This is a very close second to the pistachio palette. It's so beautiful. Really nice quality, lovely tones of green. We've got some, you know, browns in here too. The grunge, earthy, but then this just beautiful, bright, vibrant green shimmers and mattes in here. Well, the mattes aren't really that vibrant. Well, that one kind of is. So thrilled that Charlie had this so we could use this in our collab video. And now I'm thinking this should be ranked higher, but third's good. 3rd place is good. Now the palettes in the top 2 spots were not easy for me to rank. but I'm sticking with it. So the palette in the number 2 spot is the Ladybug Glow Criatura palette. Now, this is such cute packaging. First of all, let's admire the packaging, but the color story is just absolutely jaw-droppingly beautiful. Look how fun this is. So many unique, fun options. I love how this palette is arranged too, like these bright matte, well, there's bright down here too, I guess, but the mattes are on the upper and lower rows, and then we've got these beautiful multi-chrome shimmers in the center. Isn't that cool? I just love it. I think it's really neat. And, you know, when I first saw this color story, I was a little bit like, that might be a little tricky for me. But when the 2 looks that I created with it, it was really easy, really easy. I just kind of started, oh yeah, I'll put these together and put those, okay, great, yeah, I got it. And I had such a blast putting these looks together. And I'm gonna be, like I mentioned, doing 2 looks with all my Ladybug Glow palettes soon. So this will be pulled back onto my channel. Cannot wait. But yeah, I'm telling you, if you guys have not yet tried Ladybug Glow, you really are missing out. You have got to try this brand. I do have a code with this brand, but you don't have to use it. I mean, if you want, go ahead. You don't have to. Of course, you don't have to. But I'm telling you, you got to try this brand, because I have not been disappointed, not once, in a Ladybug Glow palette, not once. And of course, the palette in the number 1 spot is the Saints, Angels, Sinners, Steph's Pure palette. It has to be in the number 1 spot. This is my favorite eyeshadow palette of all time. It is. And not just because it belongs to my sister, okay? It's a beautiful eyeshadow palette. It's just, I know I've already shown it. I'm going to show it to you again. So fun, so unique, a bajillion things you can do with it. Now, I did create a look for a group collab video using this palette. And I got the date wrong initially. And so fortunately, a few of the folks that are in our group, the Sassies, said, well, let's do round 2. And Erica, if you can remember when the collab is, could you join us? So I was able to do that, and I was thrilled. You know, I felt like an absolute jackass that I forgot the date of the first go round, but I made it to the second one, so that's all that matters, right? And what I did was created a green look. And I used Sinner, that's, you know, like I mentioned, kind of falling apart, although it's holding up pretty good now. And then Nonny, which is my shade in the palette. I got to name that shade, and I love green, so that's why I chose that. And then I used Simply the Best, Angel, and Nirvana. Just lovely. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, green look I've ever created. Now, the fun thing is, I know I've talked about this before, I'm going to talk about it again. The really fun thing about this palette is this row down here. They're all multi-chromes and all different hues, different shifts. So you can do, like I mentioned, a bajillion things with it. This is such a special palette in my collection. I love it so much. And I will be doing another multiple looks video with it. I'm pretty sure that Marina and Steph and I are going to collab using this. We have a little challenge that we're going to try to create a look with certain shades out of this palette, but this, I just treasure this palette. So special to me. All right, so that was my ranking of the 16 palettes plus some honorable mentions for the month of February. Let me know what you think of the ranking. Let me know if you have any of these palettes and how you feel about them. Let me know if you'd like to comment on the looks that I created, maybe what look was your favorite, or looks you liked, or the looks you didn't like. You can tell me that too. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your lives to sit down and watch this video. If you're new here and you enjoyed what you saw, please consider subscribing, smash the like button, and of course comment down below in the comment section. I love to chat with you guys there. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back. I cannot wait to see you guys again in my next video, but in the meantime, please take very good care of yourself, be well, safe, happy, and I will see you soon. Bye.
Drop it.